everyone, Rachel Prophet here with another Success by Design Nugget. I am a white female with reddish-brown hair that's in a ponytail today. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm wearing my black Microsoft Give t-shirt. I'm in my office as usual with my epic sticker wall behind me. Today's Success by Design Nugget is all about project scope. And I'm going to focus in on one specific question. Is the project scope documented in either a project charter or in a statement of work? It seems like it might be just a simple yes or no question, but in reality, I rarely see this one answered well or completely. Quite frankly, in my opinion, if you get this one wrong, then the rest of the stuff downstream in the project may not even really matter. Now, rarely do I walk into a project that has literally no idea of scope and nothing documented. But almost always is some aspect of scope missing. So what should be included in your scope, and what is your solution architect going to be looking for? Well, at a minimum, we will want to see the 10 components in your scope. The first is the business process scope. And almost always, this is not done in enough detail, and it leads to unplanned work and scope creep later on. So what is a business process? Let's analyze this by taking an example. If all you have written in your style or charter is sales process, that's probably too vague. This does not protect the customer or the partner from a misunderstanding of what is meant by the sales process. Does it include returns, order holds, picking, packing, invoicing, and so on? While there's certainly some things that we can assume from sales process, such as create and confirm a sales order, it leaves a lot to be desired for the consultant who has to implement the sales process as to what is and what is not included. While sales process or order to cash might be a good top level process, you'll want to drill down at least one level from this. Next is your application component or module scope. When you're documenting this, be sure to indicate anything that is not included clearly. When we talk about application component, this should include things like finance, supply chain, customer service, and each SKU or app that will be implemented. It should also include any ISV or third-party solutions that are in scope. And if you're planning to use Dataverse, Power Apps, Power Automate, Azure components, and so on, they should be in the list for this scope as well. If there's a separate license for a component, it should be included. For example, BYOD with an Azure SQL Server or an Azure Data Lake. Then, next, you'll want to have a list of known gaps and extensions that will be planned and included. If you don't have a clue about the gaps and extensions, then you might want to consider more analysis. It's not uncommon for a deeper analysis, phase 0 or pre-project to take place if the sales cycle was really short and did not deliver enough detail to put a project plan and statement of work, project charter, and so on in place. Next, you will want your interface scope to be documented very clearly. If your list of interfaces is only a list of systems that you will integrate with, that is likely too vague. You will want each interface point to be documented. For example, if you're integrating a legacy finance system in, you should have an interface list of each inbound and outbound data point. If some data will be bundled together in a single push or pull, this can be one interface. But if you don't know yet, you're better off to list them all. If you don't even have a high-level plan of which data points are going to be integrated, then you probably need to take a step back and get some basics down and parameters for your project. Otherwise, your requirements, design, and implementation phases may run rampant with scope creep. Business intelligence scope is up next. If you think that you're going to implement a new ERP or CRM system without any reporting or BI approach, you're sorely mistaken. In some cases, these are run as separate independent projects, but there is a dependency, and this should be noted in your statement of work or charter. One thing that your reporting and BI strategy should not do is simply list out all the reports that you use today. It is highly unrealistic and just bad from a strategy standpoint to just try and replace all the reports as is, because there's likely to be business process changes and design changes, and this means that reporting, inquiries, and analysis will likely need to change too. When you're documenting your testing scope, it is less about what exactly will be tested and more about who is responsible for each type of testing and the amount of time from those resources that should be dedicated to testing the solution. This should include your strategy for unit testing, system integration testing, process testing, end-to-end testing, user acceptance testing, mock cutover, performance testing, and so on. Again, when you're documenting your training scope, it's less about exactly what will be trained and more about who is responsible for creating the testing plan, executing the training, creating training materials, and so on. The amount of time that will be dedicated to training and the various phases of training and documentation created should be included in your scope. If you're planning a phased rollout model, it's critical that the approach is clearly documented. What are the phases? Which business processes are included with each phase? What are the timelines of the phases? And so on are the types of questions your scope should document and answer. Lastly is the support model. It should be clear how the project will support bugs, issues, and so on, not only throughout the project, but after the project is live. Your statement of work or project charter are all about setting expectations of the customer and the partner. The more time and effort you put in up front, the better off you will be down the road. While there may be changes to the plan later on, you need a baseline, and changes from that baseline approach should always go through your change management process, which will be discussed in more detail in a later nugget. That's all for today's Success by Design Nugget. If you have questions or comments, be sure to put them in below. And as always, remember to subscribe, like, and click the bell. And we'll see you next time on Dynamics 365 Unboxed.